Hey guys, I'm back, and today I'm just gonna make a super easy home cooked meal, and it's going to be a roast with vegetables. So I usually like to get my meat at Sam's. I just prefer that. Of course, you can get your meat wherever you choose to get it. So, but I just prefer Sam's. It always seems to taste a lot better. So I've got my roast here, and this is a little over 5 pounds. I've got my potatoes, I've got my carrots, and a little bit of onion. And then the seasonings that I use is going to be salt, I've got pepper, and then I've got some granulated garlic, and then I have a little bit of cumin there. Now you can make this recipe in an RV. Ovens are a little bit smaller, but you can definitely make this in the RV, which I have before. And I will usually use an aluminum pan like this. These usually come with covers. In that way, if you have some leftovers, you can put it in the fridge. It's a lot easier, or once you want to transport it to a different container after everyone eats dinner, there's a little bit left over, you can just simply throw this away. But today, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go ahead and make it in the crock pot, because whenever I am in the RV, I tend to like to use the crock pot because it eliminates the RV from getting hot from using the oven. But on winter days, on the colder weather, I usually don't mind using the oven because it doesn't feel hot in there. So what I'm going to do first is I usually like to peel my carrots just so that they're a little bit cleaner. I will be using probably about 4 to 5 large carrots, and just to sort of peel out the outer skin on these. And this, my husband loves carrots, so that's why I add a little bit extra in there. Okay, so we're gonna do this there. And once I peel these, then what I do is I cut them up into smaller pieces. After I peel my carrots, then I rinse them. I just cut a little bit of the ends off here, so we're gonna go ahead and cut those off. Sometimes it'll be a little dark on those ends, but I just prefer to cut them. So I'm going to put these aside. Now on my potatoes, I'm going to go ahead and rinse them because there's a lot of, dirt and dust from these. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse these potatoes. Okay, so I've rinsed my potatoes, and they're 4 large. Like I said, you can use more or less depending on what you prefer. And you could either leave the skins on or you can take them off. And then I'll just kind of trim off any little awkward pieces that are on the potatoes. And they seem to be pretty good, but you never get a perfect potato. If you do, you're very lucky. So these all look good. So I just cut these into little pieces, probably about yay big, so that way when you get your meat, you could also get some chunks of potato on there. So, because I still have to cut up my carrots. One thing I did forget to mention, guys, is I usually just get cream of mushroom with roasted garlic. And so I'll use about 3 to 4 cans of this inside once I add my seasoning onto the meat. And that is going to help make the gravy and all of the flavors come together, and it really comes out really great. And this is really easy. It's very good. I mean, it can feed the family, and you know, you can even reheat it for the next day if there's any leftovers. Super easy. You just kind of get all your ingredients together, put it in the oven or put it in your crock pot, whichever you choose, and then you can go run errands. If it's in the crock pot, you can go run errands, do what you have to do, and you come back and you have your delicious roast waiting for you and the family. So right now I'm going to go ahead and cut up my carrots so we can go ahead and keep moving on this. Okay, so I've got my crock pot and I went on and I set it on high, and I'm gonna go ahead and put it on there for about, I would say about maybe 5 hours. Okay, I always like my roast very tender. So I'm going to go ahead and add my my roast. So this one came in 2 pieces because of course it's from Sam, so they kind of give you double, and we have a lot here in the family, so we're gonna go ahead and add your roast. So that fits very well in here. So a lot of people would like to just sort of pan sear it just a little bit before they put it in the roaster. I don't do that unless I'm doing another type of dish, which we can go over that one at another time. But right now I'm just going to go ahead and put these in here. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add my granulated garlic. Okay, so you can just sort of, you know, you just sprinkle it over, and I'm going to sprinkle it on both sides. Okay, so, and I know some people say you're supposed to add the seasonings after, but as many times as I've cooked foods and roasts and ribs, all that good stuff, I always add my seasoning on both sides of my meat before I cook it. Then I'm going to go ahead and add some pepper. I'm just going to sprinkle it. It may seem like a lot, but it is a very thick roast. But trust me, the flavor is going to be amazing. And it's one of the things that I like, is I like my food to have flavor. I don't like bland food. Then I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle some salt. Just very lightly, because I use another ingredient that I love, and it's one of my go-to ingredients, and I'll show that to you here in a sec. This is cumin, so it's ground cumin. I like it because it will give it just a slight little smoky flavor, and it smells amazing. This was used a lot when I was growing up, and I would smell it as they were cooking in the kitchen, and it just smelled amazing. Okay, and you can just sprinkle a little bit, and you don't have to use cumin if you don't like it, but this does give it a nice little smoky flavor. So I just wanted to share with you my go-to favorite seasoning, which is this tomato bouillon chicken flavor. It's amazing. I love it. So this one, you know, I'll just sprinkle it, and this is going to give it the salt. And I know you're probably thinking it might be too salty, but it's not. It adds very good flavor, because once I add my cream of mushroom, then I do add a little bit of water as well. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll even add some of this in the water, so it doesn't take away the flavors from the seasoning that I've already put. Okay, so now we've got it seasoned on this side, and these are pretty thick roasts. So we're going to go ahead and turn the roast. Pretty heavy. I like it because they're nice and thick. So it's going to be a lot of meat for everyone. If you'd like, you can season them on a separate pan. Now, this has a lot of fat. Normally I would want to trim that off, so I might just do that here. And then we're going to just repeat the seasonings. So we're going to sprinkle the garlic, granulated garlic. Now there's powdered garlic and then there's granulated. So I find that the granulated garlic has more flavor. And just kind of sprinkle sprinkle it, be generous, because once you add the cream of mushroom and the water, it does water down the seasonings a little bit. So trust me, it's going to taste amazing. Then I do the pepper again. And if you have other choice preferences on your seasonings, you can definitely add them. This is just what I use on mine, and so far I've been pretty lucky with it. Just a little dash of the salt, tiny. I use my trusty little seasoning, and then here's the cumin. And this, like I said, it gives it that little smoky flavor, and it's really good. And even if it gets on the sides and it doesn't get directly on the meat, it's okay, because we're going to cover this up with the cream of mushroom and some water, so it's all going to be simmering in its own seasonings and juices. And then here is that chicken bouillon, tomato chicken bouillon. It's really good. Okay, now we have all of the seasonings, so I'm going to add the carrots around here. Now in the oven, I normally wait to add my veggies maybe halfway or almost towards the end of having it in the oven for a while, because the veggies are going to cook a lot faster than your meat. So I'm just going to go ahead and add this, and as the meat is cooking, it's going to shrink a little bit, so I'll check it, and then I might move it around a little bit just to get the veggies all over the place there, all under the meat. Okay, so we added the carrots. Get my potatoes. We're gonna add the potatoes. This is super easy, guys. You just put it in here and just let it cook. While you go to work, while you hang out, go on a little hike. And you can be doing other stuff while your dinner is cooking. All right, so I added my potatoes, my carrots, the meat, seasoned it already. And there we go. So like I said, you can add more or less of the carrots, potatoes, vice versa, whichever you prefer. So one of the things we haven't added yet is some onion. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of onion just to give it just a little flavor in there. Some people like a lot of onion, and some people, you know, they prefer not. And I'll just cut it into maybe some pieces, maybe like about yay big. And all of this is going to get crumbled up and mixed up into the food. So as the meat shrinks a little bit, we can mix it. Everything will just go under the meat and get all the flavors in there. So just sprinkle a little bit. I don't want to overpower it. Food tends to last a little bit longer when you don't have too much onion in it for some reason. Apparently onions collect a lot of bacteria just naturally, so it'll last longer. So I just sprinkled just a little bit of onion on there, not too much, just gives it a flavor. I already have enough seasonings on there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add my cream of mushroom with roasted garlic. This is the one that I prefer because it gives it a very good flavor. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and you just pour the cream of mushroom over everything. I usually pour it over the meat, preferably, and then I pour the vegetables on top. But either way, it's all going to mix in. But I usually do pour it over the meat, so sorry about that. I just kind of got a little ahead of myself. This is a set it and go. And I'm just going to coat everything so as it's heating up more, and once I seal the lid on this, it's all going to just run down. It's all going to seep down into the food. Now I do add some water in this as well, because since it's a lot, I do add some water, and sometimes I find I don't even have to add any flour to it. to make that thick gravy. But if I do need to, then I'll just add that towards the end. One of the tricks that my mom taught me when I was growing up is if you're ever going to add, you want to make something thicker, like a gravy thicker in a sauce that you see that you're cooking, you get a cup of cold water and then you add your flour. So I usually add some flour into a cup or a mixing cup, and then I add some cold water and you mix it. That helps to keep the flour from clumping up. So that was a pretty neat trick that she showed me, that she taught me many years ago, and trust me, it works. And a lot of people don't know that. A friend of mine, she was like, wow, I never knew that. Mine always clumps. Well, mix it with cold water, and as you're pouring it, you're mixing, and then give it some time and it'll start to thicken up. Okay, so I added some water into one of the cans just to try to salvage as much of the gravy, as much of the cream of mushroom that I had in here, and I'm gonna go ahead and pour that in there. And what I did was I added my seasoning, my tomato chicken bouillon seasoning, and if you notice, it's got color, so that's gonna give it some color there. I'm just gonna squeeze off to the sides just to have the water kind of run all through it. And I am gonna be checking this here in a little bit. Quite a big piece of meat. I know it looks messy, guys, right now, but it's gonna be very, very good. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit more of the chicken bouillon, because you don't want to water down your seasoning. So just kind of pour it in there. And all of this is going to turn into gravy. So when you're getting your meat out, you're going to see it's going to be full of gravy. And I'm just making little pockets here so I can make sure the water is running under. So there you go. So I think I'm going to stop about right there, so that way it gives room for anything to, just so it makes sure that there's plenty of room for everything. Now it's time to set it and forget it. So we're gonna go ahead and put our lid on here. This is gonna clamp down. And then we're gonna clamp this down nice and tight. Now we're gonna go ahead and just let it sit. And it has probably about 4 hours, 30 minutes, just from the time that I was prepping it and putting it in here. I'll check on it maybe here in another couple of hours once everything starts to melt and start working itself through it. Other than that, okay guys, so let's see how it comes out once it's done. Okay everyone, so here is my roast. And it's a chuck roast, Angus beef chuck roast. And as far as the recipe, it has the carrots, potatoes, and the cream of mushroom, my seasonings, and that's at the very beginning of the video. And I usually like to serve it with some nice warm cornbread. This is the final result of my recipe. There's a lot of gravy and it's very, very tender. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you do try it, let me know what you think. Please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, and give me a thumbs up, and I'll be seeing you guys soon. Bye.